Hi everyone, we are finally live with what features sustains your products during pandemics. So yeah, we usually used to be here in Factory Berlin with 30, 40 of you guys, and we have like a live meetup, actually physical meetups. But according to the pandemics and the situation we have, definitely we cannot have supporting actually physical meetups in the factory. So I am Sajad, CEO of Agile Food, and I will start the meetup with the part actually for presenting you this live examples of companies, corporations, and small startups, how they try to sustain during the pandemics. So after these 3 months of actually pandemics, I think everybody knows how it has affected our life, our businesses, and most important, the economy. So we have a better idea what is the situation and what should we have do and what should we have done actually, which we didn't. So, or we have done, so we can plan better the future, and also if unfortunate next pandemics came through. After me, I will also introduce Chiara, who will talk about the features that sustain your products, and also she will also provide some real examples and let you know how you can apply these features to your products. And at the end, Mina will talk how you can manage your teams and products during each pandemic. So almost one quarter of responding enterprises have ceased trading either temporarily or permanently because of COVID-19, which is a big amount actually of uh, scaling down or shutting down the companies. So you are not the only one who may suffer from the pandemics or has faced these issues, but we have to know how to sustain and how to survive during the pandemics. So as a first example, Agile Full was not actually exceptional. We had the same issue. As you know, Agile Full is a actually agency model business, so everything is based on cash flow. If you have enough cash flow, actually, then you can survive. And if 1 to 3 months the cash is not coming, then most of the agencies cannot survive easily. So what did we do actually to sustain and to survive as a first example? First of all, before even we go to think about the business, how to keep the business alive, we have to think about the team, because at the, let's say, few days, 2 3 days after the pandemic, we have to decide to let the team which are already distributed in the world to work actually from home, because if you don't take care of your employees, their health, and you will be blind how to keep your business working, I think this will be also disappointed your team. So the first thing we did, and most of the startups actually did, was letting everybody go home and work from home. So this was the first decision before even we thought what to do with business. But about the business, before even we start the business, the Agile Full actually, we were in the market with the Talent Bridge GmbH for more than 3 years, and we always wanted to rebrand, change how we are working, and we would like to actually separate different services we provide. We were providing kind of recruiting, helping talents to relocate to Europe and help companies in Europe to find talents. And on the other hand, we're providing outsourcing solutions, building MVPs, and helping the startups to build their MVP. So we decided to use this opportunity to start rebranding, as we wanted to do it for a year. And that's why actually Agile Full, exactly 2 weeks after the pandemic, get established here in Berlin. And we moved all the actually outsourcing projects and products and building the MVP product to the new company brand named Agile Food. And we moved whole the actually relocation part to Elite Food, which is already suspended from March, and we decided to get start actually running this again when the borders in Europe is open. So, and on the other hand, because we already knew and we're sure that the number of our clients will go down a bit and we will have more free time, so we try to use these 2 months to provide more contents for the new brand, decide what to do with our meetups, which we usually do with Talent Bridging Factory, and we plan our first meetup webinar, so we can after the webinar, whatever visitors comes, like you guys who are here, and the one who maybe couldn't attend, at least can actually share the video and share the video with them, and then can have an interaction with the people. So we use it also this as an opportunity to convert actually the way we were doing meetups to a webinar. And at the end, as as already mentioned, a lot of people actually and a lot of startups has issues after this pandemics, and they got the crisis was actually for everybody in the business. So what we have to have in mind was that okay, for a maybe short time, our clients doesn't have enough money to invest in their products, or the one who even want to start a new startup and build an MVP, maybe they cannot afford anymore the budget they have for that before the pandemics. So we come up with the idea to make our contracts more flexible. We come with this idea to provide convertible loans to the companies who wants to start building an MVP. And during these 2 months, this idea actually grew more and more. And then now we already have an accelerator, which started with only tech acceleration, helping companies to build the MVP with our accelerator. And now we combine it with business acceleration, helping people to actually get the fund that they can invest this fund on the MVP. So it can always comes to a situation that okay, all these problems, all these crises, let you to be more innovative, and maybe you make some more amazing product that you never did in the last 3 years. So yeah, going through the examples, I will give you two type of examples. One are from local businesses or startups, mostly in Europe, and the other is like how big corporations actually reacted. To start, we can start with Google, which actually the first thing they did, they start giving people useful information about COVID-19. So they make the COVID-19 alert, which means every time you search on Google anything about COVID-19, they have like classified information about the statistics, about the treatments, and how to prevent, and all information you may need to daily read about the COVID-19. And the next thing they do, they make the meat free for everybody. So every businesses who are using Google can use Meet without extra charges to make video conferences, because most of the teams goes remote. So to have meetings, to have discussions, to have meetups, and any gathering that each company, from big companies of I don't know 10,000 employees or small companies, have to have done it online. So Meet was provided to everybody for free to use for internal meetings. And the other thing actually Google did, like a lot of other, let's say, corporations like Facebook and Twitter, they start protecting people from misinformation, which was very important. So not only in the Google search and Google ads, also in YouTube. So any content you provide in YouTube and any ads you want to do to sell products related to Corona and COVID-19 was observed by Google and also filtered if and banned if you start doing like sending information which are wrong, and we try to actually make benefit from that with wrong information. The other big corporation is Facebook, which I want to give few examples from them. First of all, if you open your Facebook, and for example, if you have a business page, they give you such information that can lead you to your local aids and funds that you can get from government or anywhere else, plus all the information about COVID-19. If WHO has a live conference or has an announcement, Facebook always promote that for free in the Facebook page. And they also push the market. So they have a marketplace already in Facebook and Instagram, but now they push it so that you can buy actually stuff online and pay online with face in the Instagram or Facebook. So they actually start using the advantage of this trend that a lot of people now only buy online. And like most, a lot of other corporations, also they let big part of their team work from home almost forever. So another interesting story is from Ford. So after the COVID-19 comes, there was a concerns from Police of America that how they can sanitize actually their cars. And they went to the Ford company, asked them if you can help us with a solution so we don't need to like use these sprays to sanitize our cars, and we use the car every day regularly. They have like thousands of cars from Ford, and they were looking for a solution so they can sanitize the cars immediately. And Ford come up with a very smart idea, which was only upgrading their software, so without any hardware cost. They upgrade the software in a way so that the engine, which has a very high heat, can not only heat up for a few minutes, but also push this heat into the car through the system and through the ventilation system there. So when the police guys go out, lock the car, and then click on the button, the software automatically actually heat up the engine and then push the hot heat into the car for few minutes. And after that, after 15 minutes actually, then uh, after the whole car and all the viruses in the car get killed by the heat, then they will also use the air conditioner to cool it down and remove the hot air from the car, and then the police guys can get into the car, which is totally sanitized. And they have also this idea, which sounds quite cool, that this software can be used for everybody. But the issue for now is the safety, because everybody who wants to use such a thing should be very aware of what's going on and not hurt themselves by burning. So they are now considering some uh, safety measurements, and then after that, this can be also provided to the public. And imagine if, I don't know, if manufacturers like Mercedes-Benz or BMW actually already has such a solution and they provide it to the car sharing service they have, and then share now if you could provide such a thing, it was a very big advantage for them competing to their actually competitors. So, and yeah, to give a very also simple example of that, Adidas start providing reusable masks. So, okay, like a lot of many other companies, even not closest companies, like a lot of car manufacturers start making masks. So what Adidas did was actually doing this mask from recyclable materials. So the recycled materials was one point that was very interesting for people in Europe who wants to actually take also care of the environment to use these masks. And also a part of the money that you pay to buy a mask from Adidas was going to donate to Save the Children's Global Coronavirus Response Fund. And yeah, and speaking about startups, or let's say SMEs, I have one example from Germany and here in Berlin, Zamedi. So Zamedi is actually a company who provides online appointment booking for the hospitals. And that was the main product they were providing. But what happens after the pandemics? They decided to actually make the main focus on the free video consultation, which means, however, they already have like a video consultation from third party. They put all the tech team focus to make a free with the video consultation in-house, so they can provide it for free to the doctors. And that actually led to get 1,400 doctors registered since the pandemics in their platform to use video consultations. So they had 24,000 bookings since March, and they provided over 2,500 hours of free consultations, which means this brings them 1,400 leads to be able to sell the video consultation solution after the pandemics. Another example with the local actually restaurant and bars, so local businesses who get really sadly and hardly affected by the pandemics and by the crisis, because a lot of them has to shut down for a long while. So I bring two examples. One is Maryland Bar Fishtail. So they actually come with this idea of cool tubes that you have to go actually into these tubes, and then you can drink and have your drink with a social distance, but also have some fun actually interacting with other people, dancing with a social distance. And Plex It is another example I wanted to talk about. So Plex It is actually a kind of cover which will actually put it on your head somehow, but without any, let's say, annoying or distracting you from communicating with others, which is a glass cover. So this is very simple actually to set up. So the restaurants can easily set it up or take it out after each guest leave, clean it and disinfect it and reuse it again. And the last example from my side is actually Florence Dumo. Yeah, you may ask why Florence Dumo? Because I love Florence, so I wanted to finish with Florence. So Florence Dumo actually, what is planning to do is the reopening. If you want to reopen Italy with this situation and the Corona situation, maybe this will scare a lot of tourists or visitors. So what they did actually, they built kind of necklaces for visitors, which are necklace device. You put it there, and this is developed actually with a Florence-based company, so local company there that use advanced microwave engineering. That each time that somebody get close to you or you get close to somebody with less than 2 meters, this will start vibrating softly and then start beeping if you get more closer. So this idea and this solution can be used in any public actually space or any museums around the world. Yeah, from my side, that's it. Thank you for listening. The most interesting part is coming actually from Chiara and Mina, which they spend much more time to prepare a nice presentation about how to actually how to sustain your product with the what features and also how to manage your team and product. So I will invite Chiara actually to join so that she can start his presentation.
Yes, thank you, Sajad. Good morning, or good afternoon, actually. As Sajad explained, now I'm going to cover what are the ways to sustain your product, whether your product is already existing in the market and therefore you need to find ways to adapt it to the new situation, or whether your product is still at the early stage and therefore you need to find ways to launch it in the correct way within the market. The first thing I would like to do is to see what are the challenges faced nowadays from businesses, both existing ones and early stage ones. In general, each day we're learning new ways to adapt to working from home as we social distance and response to the COVID-19 pandemic situation. And while at the moment, many speculate on how long this shutdown will actually last and when we will return to normal work lives, the reality is that this crisis is permanently changing the way we work and the way businesses work. And there's no going back as the workplace and the businesses are being reinvented in real time. The pandemic, first of all, has shown remote working is actually a good idea. Much more people can easily work from home. They rely on email, chats, and video conferencing to quickly communicate with colleagues. Many employees are not returning to the office even after the pandemic will be under control. And the need overall for physical workplaces and paper files will decrease over time. Instead, many more people will work from home, fully wired on their mobile phones, laptops, and other devices. But as well as employees' work lives have changed, also the companies themselves did. This means that the pandemic has shown that they can actually operate more effectively. The COVID-19 outbreak has delivered a great change to businesses, as everything from small restaurants to multinational corporations have been forced to change the way they work. And they've also had to implement massive organizational changes in just a matter of weeks to attempt to stay in the market. So the second thing that actually is a huge challenge nowadays is the audience reach. We are expecting a lot of changes in customer preferences and in business models that will outlast this immediate crisis. Consumers intend to permanently shift to online grocery shopping, for example. There is an increase in overall e-commerce penetration, and some consumers are actually trying to go digital and remote experiences for the first time. And once the customers are acclimated to these new digital remote models, we expect these customers to switch permanently and increase their usage of digital devices, accelerating, therefore, their behavior shifts that were actually already underway before the crisis started. The third point is cash flow. So during coronavirus crisis, digital payments have been keeping economies running and have been people reduce contact with the virus, as they were, of course, limiting these person transactions, and they were ensuring consumers that to buy essentials from comfort zone like their own houses. And the last point is declining demand. As we know, the decrease in the income of people, the unemployment rates, and other changes have been affecting the way customers behave and the demand for goods and services. And this is a huge problem nowadays that businesses have to understand how to solve and actually to adapt in order to increase the sales of the company and not to lose them. According to Forbes, there are going to be two winners out of this crisis. The first one is going to be smart founders, and the second one will be startups, so existing products and businesses and early stage ones. This is because the COVID is actually representing an interesting opportunity for startups to capitalize on how life might be different in a post-self-isolation world. Today, we're going to examine exactly the ways to sustain your product, whether it's an existing one or an early stage, and we'll see step by step how and some ideas to improve your product. The first thing I would like to examine is existing products within the market and some solutions and ideas from our side to improve your product. The first thing will be to adjust your advertisement. So to adjust your ad schedule to show up during the best performing times. You need to evaluate and consider adjusting your pricing and packaging and advertising based on the situation. So it isn't the time right now to for pricing reactions or introducing major changes in your pricing model. However, you might need some adjustments due to the customer needs which have changed. While that will make sense at a first glance, we see that the average cost per clicks of advertisement has dropped by 50% across different tools around for digital advertising, which means that for advertisers and advertising tools, which are continuing their campaigns during this coronavirus crisis, they can enjoy leads with significantly lower cost than before. So rather than pausing your campaigns on your advertisement, a better strategy will be to try and leverage the market opportunities by reducing your spend and getting more conversions for your money spent. So for example, if you're setting Google Ads or other tools, you can adjust always the day and the hour to see which one is bringing the most conversion. Then you make a note of what are the top 2 to 3 days you tend to get the most out of your conversions. And you can decide to either exclude other days from your campaigns for the time being, or either reduce the bids on those days, so you will still show up on those days, but your spend will be much lower, so you will save money and might maybe invest them in the other days that are performing better. So depending on your type of business, you might have different metrics to look at. One of the metric could be, which might be relevant, could be the cost per click, so the cost per conversion or the conversion rate, and also depending on your campaign's objective. Other non-conversion related metrics can be, for example, the clicks, the impressions. You need to monitor them based on which one is more suitable for your product, and you can make a selection from all the options available from these advertisement tools and understand what's going to work better for your product. The second point would be that packages should address customers' new working conditions. For example, assume that your customers and their employees will be working from home for the foreseeable future. In all your organization packages and the offers that you have for your customers, even the most basic ones, you need to include elements such as, for example, secure remote access and integration to chatting tools, so that you will demonstrate your customers that you understand the challenges that they're facing and you go towards them. Another point is to create a flexible upsell path. So in these uncertain times, the customers might be or feel unsure of their volume requirements and might be unable to envision what's their complexity of their needs. So the companies that are actually going to be winners and successful will actually be able to build flexible and flexibility overall into these new purchases and upsell paths for both the volume requirements and for offering capabilities. So with these, the buyers will feel comfortable that the company is addressing their needs without overcommitting too much to the organization itself. You should also consider low cost or even better free offerings for most of the people or businesses impacted by the COVID-19. Many organizations are already doing it, for example, educational institutions, hospitals, or healthcare providers. For example, Zoom, the platform to communicate, which already has a free offering at the moment, has also removed the 40-minute conference time limit for educational institutions in many countries, especially the one that have been affected the most, so region which are not evolved. And if you have a free offering that can be useful to some of these businesses and people, then you need to make sure that they're aware of it, and you need to promote this offering to ensure that it meets their needs that have been created by this new environment. You also need to focus on strengthening your community at the moment. So the current customers need to feel loyal to your community. If you cannot increase sales at the moment, at least try to strengthen your community. So out of the crisis, the customers will actually feel more close to you. The trust that your organization has with your customers is really fundamental and crucial, and it should be always nurtured over time, even now more than before. You need to ensure that your pricing rewards your loyal customers. You need to offer discounts for this report. You can create advocacy or loyalty systems or references that shows your appreciation towards them, and that can help you overall build this strong community. You also need to be able to create sales content to support your pricing. So sales representatives will be at the moment challenged more than ever before, and as well your customers, because they need to adapt to this new environment. So you need to help your sales representatives and your customers as well to make sure that your story, that the value of your story and of your business is very clear in their minds, including also the economic benefits that they can have from this offering. You need to be patient, empathic, and creative when achieving this in order to be successful. And it's actually times like this that define and build and actually reinforce the relationships with your clients and your prospects. You need to demonstrate to them your sensitivity and respect for their positions that they have within your company as stakeholders, because this will extend also beyond the crisis. Last but not least, you need to be able to monitor product engagements and respond rapidly to it. So basically, organizations today that have a robust usage and analytics capabilities, and also a major agile development approaches are very well positioned, and you need to aim at understanding what and how they're doing it and try to copy them or to do the same. So you need to use product engagement tools to monitor customer activity, and you need to allow product managers to create and display these interventions, for example, announcements to the users who are meeting specific criteria. You need to use these tools to understand if and how customers are actually using your product differently today than before, and then quickly make changes and adjustments based on that. So this is really important overall to be flexible and versatile in your work. So even if your product has been existing so far for a long time, you need to make it a bit more agile and more flexible, like startups are doing today, so that you can be able to adjust to any change, not just the current crisis, but any further crisis that might happen in the future. Moving on, I would like to discuss what are the solutions for early stage products within the market. I have identified mainly 3 of them. So the first one is to reconsider the research approach. So you might need and like to do some in-person interviews and observational research, which are often ideal for uncovering new needs and helping new offerings take shape, but which are also likely impossible to use in the near future. If you do your research well, phone interviews can be effective, but also other mechanisms to uncover these needs of customers. However, if talking with customers might be difficult, it could be the good time to try launch a minimal viable product, so MVP, and experiment it. So take a look into your user research and testing technologies that can help actually gather further feedback to your product and enhance any ideas before it goes into development and before your final product is actually launched within the market. Second point is to identify what are the future potential needs in the market. You need to be able to predict the future, as it's always difficult and uncertain, but it's really worth considering how customers' needs have changed so far in 2020, and try to project how they might still change in the future. You need to think, is there a new normal, a new habit, or thing that our customer have that our product might need to account for in the future. Try to understand it now, and this will help you improve and implement a product that in the future will actually be necessary and crucial to your customers. The last thing is understanding and adapt to the trends. The overall big shifts are already well known within the market. There have been already many signals of this, but it's really hard, if not impossible, to know exactly the timing and shape that the bell curve of these trends will follow. You need to think if they will stay a niche for 1 year or maybe 3 years, or if suddenly they will accelerate on a mass adoption because of some external trigger or crisis or something that could happen. And that's why at times like this, it's very useful to be able to look at these trends that were already out there, if we can use it this way. You can ask yourself, which new behaviors have early adopters and pioneer brands already been embracing? Which trends actually looked years away from the mainstream, but now feel actually crucial to become totally normal in a matter of months or even weeks? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 10 examples of trends that have been out there, as I said before, and that you can try to implement within your product. Of course, trying to base it on your own product, and I'll tell you some examples and also some techniques on how you can apply it and implement it with a low budget and with some creativity. The first example is this from Ubisoft, in this virtual experience economy. You all know about the experience economy. Immersive new technologies mean that new people can increasingly get their experience based status fixes from virtual experiences. Social media, of course, are the obvious manifestations of how customers accrue status in the virtual reality, but it's not important, but it's actually more important to consider other and less expensive and less competitive virtual experiences, such as travel, retail, gatherings, or others, to take on a new levels of meaning. So this example that you just saw from Ubisoft, it's really important to understand and also have some ideas of how to implement this. Ubisoft has released a free in-game update for the popular game, which you might know, called Assassin's Creed, which is allowing the users to access this discovery tour mode. And in this mode, players can actually travel around the game's world, which is set in ancient Egypt. And they can visit locations such as Alexandria, Memphis, and so on. And this tour mode also features guided tours, allowing players to learn about the Great Pyramids, what will be the daily life in Egypt, and so on. So this is a nice example, and it's very creative. But how can you apply this trend on your business, on your current product? Don't think that the tech part is the only thing that you will need, because while tech is really important, of course, to build something like this, it's also important to have a deep human motivations. The biggest challenge will then be to stop thinking about digital experiences just as tools or entertainment, but rather start thinking about them as platform for status accruing experiences. So once you made this idea very clear in your mind, the possibilities are really a lot, and they're infinite. How you will create virtual experiences that consumers actually value and want to share as much as the real world. So you need to kind of shift their daily life on a real reality to a virtual reality, to a digital realm. The second trend, it's called shop streaming. The recent crisis and of course seen this live streaming market grow even more and faster than before. And this mix of entertainment, community, and commerce will actually raise these e-commerce expectations and go forward on a global scale. The example that you see in the video is from April 2019, when China-based online shopping site called Taobao was allowing farmers from across the country to host live streams to help boost their income. And this initiative was hoping to increase the earnings of these farmers by promoting all the products that were hard to sell on a normal scale and base. How can you apply this trend? Well, you need to consider that the next generation of digital commerce will actually be radically different than the one that we're used to. Basically, the one that we see nowadays, for example, in companies like Amazon, and which we appreciate the services and the possibilities. But the new experience will be more engaging, more immersive, and more social. So you need to try to interact with your customer on a more futuristic and advanced way than the normal one that you see today. So try to use other benchmarks when you are trying to create your products, such as Taobao, rather than companies like Amazon, which have remained like this for the past 25 years. The third example is of a trend that is actually increasing is virtual companions. This has been one of the most eye-opening and controversial trends. Quite simply, as people become more accustomed to digital assistants and chatbots, their expectations will evolve. And some people will start seeking out virtual personalities that have the power to entertain, educate, be their friends, and heal their needs and their sadness, for example. The crisis will see people turning to these virtual companions, and once you understand these behaviors will actually persist over the crisis will end, and you'll be able to implement it in your product. For example, in January 2020, Samsung introduced these virtual beings called Neon that actually look and behave like humans and can demonstrate emotion and intelligence. These avatars are intended to work alongside with people. They can share experiences. They can teach skills rather than just simply supplying data and information like the robots or the avatars we're used to until now. This technology was powered by three core technologies, which are actually fundamental for your product. It's called the core R3, which is reality, real-time, and responsiveness. So try to make sure to implement this R3 to your product, within your product. The way you can apply this trend, well, not every brand, not all your products need to offer people virtual companionship. But if you're a brand who people will actually welcome some companionship from, then this trend actually represents an exciting challenge for you. And you should probably find a way to introduce it within your product somehow. So you need to be creative here and try to understand how you can like communicate on a real-time basis with your customer. The third trend is ambient wellness. Right now, as you know, people are obsessed reaching for their hand sanitizers and as they move through their daily lives. Although these moments of deep hygiene will pass, we hope after the crisis, the desire to remain safe will actually be stronger than ever and will persist. And this will create, of course, a huge opportunities for providers of physical spaces to embed and implement health boosting measures into the spaces that they have, so that the customers can pass through, making staying healthy effortless. For example, in June 2018, Stella McCartney, a luxury fashion store, opened a flagship London store featuring an air filtration system. And the store was including this filtration system, which was removing 95% of all the pollutants and traffic fumes. And it was, of course, designed to raise awareness on the problem of air pollution. So it is really important for you, if you want to apply this trend and follow it, to think expansively about how your customers are interacting with your physical spaces and the impact that these spaces have on all the aspects of their physical and mental well-being. The fifth trend that we need to consider is called mentor to protégé, or M2P. So as you know, online social connections are meeting the very human desire of self-improvement. People nowadays are spending an amount of time which is infinite online, but many of them also aim at using this time productively, and therefore will try to embrace platforms that can connect them with teachers, experts, for example, or mentors in their desire to learn new skills. For example, the language learning platform called Duolingo, which you might know, has partnered with a video game live streaming platform that is called Twitch, and launched the Duolingo verified streamer program. It was in July 2019. Basically, these 12 multilingual streamers were part of this global ambassador program, which was offering streams in Twitch for chatting with them on various topics, allowing the users to practice the chosen language of reference. So obviously, the skill-focused organizations and businesses will be a natural fit for this trend. But actually, any of you can apply this trend. Any business with an online platform or community can experiment with this self-improvement trend through their offering. So just have a look at how Twitch has offered its viewers this chance to offer language skills. Try to collaborate with companies such as Duolingo and implement it in your product. The sixth trend is e-commerce. It's another trend that was from a couple of years ago and that has just now received a powerful importance. In fact, back in 2017, 2018, the increasing power and adoption of the artificial intelligence, the AI, was one of the main driver of this trend. There is today actually an increase in demand for contact-free interactions that is converging nowadays with advancements in robotics, for example, which is enabling actually a new way of automated commerce, e-commerce. For example, in 2019, Domino's Pizza and this company for robotics called Nuro have announced the launch of a pilot initiative where basically a fleet of driverless robot cars were delivering pizza to customers in Houston, in Texas. And the deliveries were carried out by these vehicles from Nuro, which are actually being monitored by remote technology and human drivers in chase vehicles. So during this crisis, both businesses and customers will have to welcome automated alternatives. They will accept things they weren't acceptable before in less challenging times, but don't assume that this situation, of course, will continue indefinitely. Smart brands, if you are a smart brand, you need to use this period to just experiment. But when making long-term plans, you need to think carefully about which part of your customer journey you need to automate, which will actually persist after the crisis. The burnout is the seventh trend that I identified. So as you know, the coronavirus is hardly the only thing causing mental anguish. So even before it triggered a global public health crisis and raised fears of deep economic crisis and decline, people were actually facing already some inequalities, always on social competition, climate crisis, and much more. And it's hardly surprising, therefore, that any organization that can help improve this people's mental well-being will actually be welcomed with open arms during and after the crisis. For example, the Moxie Hotel, which is owned by Marriott Group Hotel, have announced in 2019 that guests will have access to exclusive ASMR, so autonomous sensory meridian response videos in their rooms. These videos were actually part of this bedtime stories program. Were co-created with this ASMR experience provider called Whisper Lodge, and we're featuring these performers using an interactive with a variety of stories and objects to provide guests with the so-called mental message after a long day. So this is one of those trends that doesn't require a huge budget or highly technical solutions. It simply requires you to think about and really understand. You need to understand what's causing your customers mental anguish and what could make them feel better anyhow in every little part of their daily lives. The eighth trend is open source solutions. Open source solutions, as you know, is the act of sharing and even giving away your innovative solutions to improve shared problems within society. The coronavirus is one of the most, of course, urgent transnational cross-demographic problems in the recent history, and as such, it has been reminded people that the best organizations are those that are collaborating generously with the others and creating some solutions to overcome this problem. For example, in 2018, it was announced that Ford, Uber, and Lyft, so automotive industries and businesses, were joining Shared Streets, which is a public-private data platform, which was designed to help reduce urban transportation issues. And this platform was actually operating in over 30 global cities, including, for example, cities like Paris in Europe or in the US, like Washington. And it was aiming at creating a shared machine-readable standards for this data, such as carb usage, traffic speeds, and so on, in order to enable cities to make better investments and management decisions. So how can we apply this trend? So to understand these and try to find a way to improve it, we can see another practical example from 1959, so dating back around 50 years ago, when Volvo, still an automotive business, invented a 3-point seatbelt, which was famously made the patent available to everyone in the interest of public safety. And it's estimated today that since then, the invention has saved around 1 million lives. So the brand is still celebrating, of course, this decision. And what you can do like Volvo did. So you need to ask yourself, for example, what could we do today in 2020 that we'll be talking about also in the next 60 years. So this is really fundamental. You can use shared open source solutions and make your product one of these, so to help the society somehow, and this will increase, of course, your awareness and your the awareness within the society itself. The second last trend is assisted development. Of course, one of the beneficial outcome of spending more time at home is that many customers will be prompted, actually forced, to learn some long neglected traditional life skills, for example, cooking. And the recent growth of these on-demand economies is actually seeing rising numbers of basic domestic tasks for people. They will actually gladly like to know some of these tasks when the crisis is over, because either they might need them, either they will actually enjoy to do them. For example, a cookery equipment brand called Equal Parts is offering customers access to some tips through a Text Chef platform or chatbot, where people can actually text the chefs to receive some cooking tips, inspiration, and ideas for their meals. And it's a 7 days a week open service for the clients. So how can you apply this trend? You need to, first of all, think about the jobs that are to be done. So that customers need to do on a daily basis anyhow. And you need to think, are you only selling a product, or can you help your customers to become more independent or even a better version of themselves? And as people are emerging from a crisis, they will actually appreciate brands that are supporting them through their daily lives, routine, and tasks. Last but not least, the trend is virtual status symbols. If you understand how people are actually identifying themselves nowadays, and how they are gaining respect from society and their peers, then you will have a powerful tool through which to understand their behavior. Physical goods until now long had a monopoly on status. They are scarce and inexpensive, of course, but younger customers are now embracing new technologies like augmented reality, blockchain, VR, AI, and so on. And the growing desire for sustainable consumption and the coronavirus crisis brought to converge and push the recognition that virtual goods can actually be a status symbol into other industries and demographics. For example, this luxury fashion gaming app that you see here in the presentation called Dressed has opened a waitlist in September 2019 and actually had to launch ahead before the launch that was predicted on 2020. So this app, which is nowadays actually available both on iOS and Android, is providing the users with styling challenges to execute on realistic looking photos. So they can actually purchase the products either in the game or from online luxury retail platform like Farfetch. And they've been growing so much right now that they're actually including brands like Burberry, Gucci, and Prada, so leaders in the fashion luxury industry. So how can you apply this trend? So the best way to start is to understand how your customers are deriving status from their interactions with your brand today, so in the real world. Can it be through price, through scarcity, or or if you made them look accomplished or feeling better? So then you need to dive into the online world of gaming, or social media, or virtual reality, and so on, where actually people are spending even more time than ever. And you need to understand what are the social dynamics at play in these communities, and how you might help these people in their research for a status in this virtual environment. Now I would like to focus on a case study to conclude this discussion with a real life example of a company called Obsessed, actually a startup that has become really successful nowadays and has escalated so much because it was able to understand what were the trends and the needs of the customers during and after the crisis. And this allowed it to escalate and grow at a very large scale. So Obsessed is basically reinventing the e-commerce interface for discovery-driven product categories. So their mission is to turn online shopping into an experience. and to replace the monotonous grid e-commerce interface that hasn't changed since, as I was saying before, Amazon created the typical e-commerce experience 20 years ago just to sell books. Obsess is basically an augmented and virtual reality software platform that is enabling experiential shopping, and is implementing this technology which enables brands and retailers to have a 3D 360 degrees shopping experience on their website, mobile apps, social channels, through this 3D commerce iCloud. The founder of Success, she's called Neha Singh, as basically, she was leading engineering and product teams at Google, Vogue, luxury commerce startups, and was building platforms and products reaching millions and millions of users. And after having received a graduate degree in a computer science from MIT, she understood that she needed to do something that would have revolutionized the industry. So she then started to think, by looking at her past experiences and all these million users that she was able to reach and understand, she was starting to think about what was missing in the market and what the customers actually wanted to have today. And she discovered and understood that customers today, they want to have fun, they want to have experiences. And therefore, she decided to create a team which actually brings together expertise in platform engineering, consumer web and mobile tech, fashion, e-commerce, gaming, 3D, and so on. And she started to make online shopping fun for customers by creating Obsess. The company was featured in many magazines from CNN, Business Insider, Washington Post, and so on. So this means that they are actually growing, and they have been gathering recognition within the industry. It actually also won a place in the Startup Bootcamp Acceleration Program in Milan, which is one of the most researched, and they also raised around 1 million euros. So this is all examples of how a company from nothing can actually grow and implement a product that is sustaining and is sustainable during pandemics, but also after that. Now we'll pass on the presentation to my colleague Mina, which will continue with more examples and more information.
Thank you so much, Chiara. And so I start my presentation.
Mina, we missed your presentation to share. So please share your presentation so we can.
Shall I? Okay.
Of course, if there is any questions from the audience in the while, you can put it in the live right now, and we will be able to answer all your questions at the end of the live. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So my name is Mina Sharti, and today I'm gonna talk briefly about software product development during the pandemic, challenges, how-tos. So let's start with talking about what big tech companies have been doing from the beginning of the pandemic. Like Google and Facebook, they told their employees that many workers who can do their jobs remotely should plan to do so until 2021. And Amazon, for example, said its headquarters employees will stay at home at least until October. Microsoft told its staff that working from home remains actually optional through October for most employees, whether actually the company will allow some workers to voluntarily return to their offices in stages. And Twitter decided to give up on timelines altogether, telling most employees they can just work from home forever. So the declarations are a big shift for an industry that that has for decades prided itself for their work environment with cafeterias, wall courts, and all designs feature meant to foster collaboration and make long hours more bearable. So even the big 5 tech firms haven't been actually able to keep all their employees at home. For example, Amazon has continued to require warehouse staff during the pandemic, or faced backlash or accusation of dangerous working conditions. Or Facebook is another example that is offering financial incentives to content moderators back to the office, because many of the jobs can be done remotely. Tech companies are particularly well suited to allow remote work, and since many tasks require computer and little else. But which means a huge number of businesses are currently trying to navigate a remote working solution. Companies are working in ways they might not be used to. So working from home is likely, in a lot of companies, product development has a slowdown, or even maybe came to a halt. So let me give you a good example. For example, Google, which is not a company known for working from home, or they actually have either slowed down or stopped releasing updates to Chrome. And they sent out an email about it. They said they do security updates because I think they have to, but it's critical. But they basically actually said because of this crisis and the team. So now this is unprecedented. I've never heard Google say we're stopping development or on something, or pausing development on something because we just have to. And this is what the pandemic is causing. Truthfully, there are some other companies who are shouting from the rooftops about remote work right now, but even their own product is delayed. Like I can give you an example about a Basecamp. Basecamp is a company which they had a product and they were going to launch it, an email product called Hey in April. And now they said it's indefinitely delayed. So be aware of the fact that you might not be able to be as productive as you normally work. So if your team is not used to working from home, or if your team is emotionally impacted by this situation that's going on, so there's a bunch of slack you kind of have to give people. So now I'm gonna talk about the methodologies and tools out there that can help you and your team actually to work most effectively, especially if you're working in a software development company. So I think you've heard about Agile. Agile, as we all know, is known as one of the best, most important work methodologies. But how does it apply during the pandemic? The Agile mindset has significant benefit at any time. But let's say, what are the most important benefits of it during the period of pandemic and this period of uncertainty? So one of the benefits, we can say, Agile provides rhythm for work. When things are ambiguous and nothing feels certain, Agile provides a regular, actually, pattern to move work forward. Whether you're doing a virtual daily stand-up with your team or reviewing your work together each week, these rituals actually are positive for your state of mind and, bringing a sense of much needed normalcy. So, and the other benefit that you can get from Agile in using Agile methodologies is that Agile allows for quick shifts. When organizations need to actually make quick adjustments to priorities, approaches, or the content of work, Agile is especially well suited. Use the Agile method to deconstruct work, actually like break it into small pieces, small units, to accomplish it one piece at a time. Completing a task bit by bit and provides the opportunity for more in-course correction. Actually, when situations change, as they do regularly through the coronavirus crisis, Agile allows for easy shifts because work has been planned in smaller priorities, portions, and over shorter time horizons. The third actually benefit that I can and talk about agile and using this methodology is that agile is empowering. Agile let teams and team members make decision in a moment, actually, rather than asking for permission or waiting for managers to waiting. Uh, Within agile, leaders provide a shared vision and team members can make the necessary calls as they work through project, actually, which help ensure speed and responsiveness to customer need, actually. With the COVID created pressure on many systems to react even more quickly than usual, this kind of approach actually makes sense. Agile can help us succeed today and in the new normal post-COVID. It is especially valid because world is no longer based on individual work, and the agile mindset embraces teams. Our current condition require a call response to complexity, and agile empowers us to be our best in the face of uncertain times. So I'm gonna talk a bit about how we can manage a remote team. So, as a product manager with an experience with more than 5 years working with remote teams, software development teams, actually, I'm gonna give you a couple of tips on adopting your software development process to 100% remote work in a current condition. So, the most important thing that you should know is that you should encourage the team to interact more. So, as the tip that I will talk right now is as the first one is this daily stand-ups. Usually, the daily stand-up is the only meeting during the day, and this would be the way to keep the spirits of working together. And the next one is team building exercises. So one of the great tools to utilize in team building exercise is Slack. I don't know if you have heard about it or not, but when it comes to managing a remote team, Slack keeps the team and culture connected at all times, but acting as a water cooler spot. So the team building happens naturally when people create a conversation on their own. And you can create a Slack channel for practically any interest, and it goes a long way in connecting one person with the rest of the team. So like a channel for having a friendly gift battle with teammates, or a channel for completing 30 days, usually health related challenges. And the last tip that I should suggest is that you need to increase the level of internal documentation. In a normal situation, every time a developer, which we assume works in an agile software development firm, opens a user story and has any question about that, she will walk over to her product owner or a teammate to ask the question. So, but in this situation, it's kind of not as easy as and fast as usual. So she can't, So can we actually decrease this kind of waste through more upfront documentation? However, as everybody knows, the first two of the four actually values of the Agile Manifesto states individual and interactions over processes and tools, followed by working software or comprehensive documentation. Yet, does this still apply in a world where we all work from home? So, as a general rule, the further apart physically product manager is from the development team, the more documentation actually is needed. So chat and video calls help significantly, but are different from collaborating in person. So plan on providing additional documentation, including scenarios and prototypes, to ensure intentions and requirements are understood. The online tools that actually you can see here, the online tools, there are plenty of them, so you can use them. And yeah, so let's for documentation, you can use this online tools, Confluence, GitHub, Dropbox, and there are plenty of them out there. You can find them, you can use them easily. Okay, now I'm gonna talk about a little bit about roadmaps and features, and what happens to the features that we have planned before and that have been there in our roadmaps. So the vast, actually, majority of major development and product teams have a roadmap that identifies the most important goals to achieve in a certain period of time. Okay, so usually between a quarter and a year. The goals, both business side and technical, are predicted to have an impact on companies' products or on future actually development. But unfortunately, the current coronavirus situation makes most of such predictions useless, especially the business predictions as a previous ROI, return on investment. Assumptions associated with new features are no longer valid. So it may even lead us to the conclusion that the new features are completely irrelevant in a current scheme of things. So there's a bucket of questions that I see floating around, which one of them is, do we have to adjust, or should we adjust our product roadmap because the world is melting down? Or we definitely need to reconsider the whole roadmap as the situation forces us to reevaluate some of the technical debt and infrastructure optimization items. But anyway, there are some points that we need to take care when launching a new product or feature that I'm going to talk more about them. So the first one, let's talk about irrelevant roadmap features and timelines. According to this situation, companies should have a careful look at their features and timelines of their roadmaps. Actually, you may need to change timelines on roadmaps to be more relevant right now. If there are features that you think are more relevant for your customers, right now they are what you should focus on. As an example of irrelevant feature, I can say when an online taxi service company decides to add a feature related to carpooling service, when people even have stopped using this whole service because of social distancing, distancing time. So, and what a good example, the relevant example of the feature that companies have been adding to their products is, for example, this Uber that has released during pandemic a feature related to safety. And one more thing that you need to even take into consideration is that you should actually care about the release time or the launch's date. You need to know, even for relevant features, launching date matters. So in some cases, launch date may need to be pushed back for new products or major enhancement. Getting the attention of customers about an expensive new products, and it's difficult when those customers are focused on somewhere else. Or this situation that sales representatives may be so concerned with pipelines drying up and opportunities getting pushed out that they can't focus actually on learning about new product capabilities. So however, in other cases, it may be beneficial to release new functionalities sooner and more rapidly, especially if there is an influx of new customers or existing customers using your product in new ways, or if capabilities related to changing needs can be added sooner. I mean, every situation is different, and so there is no one blanket rule to follow. Yeah, the majority actually of our work now will likely be focused on maintaining stability and introducing cost-saving optimizations. However, remember that in a few months or so, the market will start to bounce back, and we should always, chase the occasion to be the leader. First, we should evaluate the things that we were working on before the pandemic has started. Maybe some of them are close to the finish line and can be easily finalized. Apart from that, actually, we should consider what kind of functional changes might give us an advantage over our competitors. So, at the end, I should thank you for listening, and I want to just add this, that here in Agile Food, we are ready to help you. If you require consultancy to build a new product or grow your business, actually product-wise, you can easily drop an email or set an appointment through the link we share on YouTube, which you can also find it on our website. Thank you so much.